Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Dugout, the show where I waffle on about everything to do with coaching here in Canada. Now, today's episode number 5, and what we have on store is a juicy story that's covered the last couple months. And so, basically, what I want to get out of this episode is how far as a nation we are away from the top of, the top echelon of coaching in the entire world, and at an all-time low that we were only a few months ago. Now, as much as I hate to admit it, I was not the biggest fan of John Herdman. Now, I get what you're saying. He did so much for us in terms of the women's side of the game, got us to multiple medal games, and just took us from an obscure place right to the very top, which eventually led to Beth Priestman getting us the gold in Tokyo. Nothing to take away from that accomplishment. Comes to the men's side, gets us going, gets us to the first World Cup in literal decades, and just gives... I was literally at the game where we beat Mexico. I've never been happier in my entire life. Like, hands down, top 5 day of my entire life. However, the way he handled himself in the World Cup against, especially right after the Belgium game when we lost, and to go into the Croatia game, is not very representative of Canadians. Like, yeah, let's go F Croatia. Like, geez, man, if we had any sort of pedigree in this country, yes, you could say that. But to just go outright and say, let's go and just F the team that were this close to winning a World Cup 4 years ago. Actually, not even 4 years, or maybe slightly more than 4 years ago. Anyway, that's not the point. It's like Canadians, we're very humble, very forgiving people for the most part. That's our culture. We're very jolly with each other. And for the man representing this country to go and say that, from then on, I didn't quite like him after that. And then the last couple of months coming out that there is a drone scandal. I know I'm late to the party, but only recently there's been some details that have emerged, and I just kind of wanted to have a quick chat about it. Now, did they use drones? Obviously, yes, they found guilty of it. And John Herdman obviously went to Toronto right after leaving the team, and then everything came out. Bev Priestman looks to have been involved as well. She's not going to return as the women's head coach after the investigation. John Herdman still saying that they didn't do it, and obviously you're going to say that, but it's right here, man. Like, it's like that saying, if like, or it's like what girlfriends always say about their boyfriends. Oh, if he cared enough, he would do it. And I think if you're good enough as a coach, you don't need to resort to these tactics. Even at the top game, even while under pressure, like, I'd much rather coaches lose, like, respectfully than win while having to do this. And maybe at the very top where there's literal billions of dollars at stake, maybe that happens, along with doping and all these other things that come to light. Sure, I'm assuming that does happen, but that's like the top 0.01%. I'm talking about generally the other 99% Canada should not be involving themselves with this at all. And I'm very proud of Canada for making a strong decision and saying and not allow, or maybe not allowing them to come back, but by not trying to force the issue and get them back in as soon as possible. I'm glad that we're kind of just letting them run away. And the Jesse Marsh signing proves that we're a popular choice and that there's better coaches out there than John Herdman. But in all reality, it's disappointing as a Canadian soccer. This all literally came out on like the week I was finishing my B license. Like, I think this was back in was it September? No, July. It was back in July, like the week after Canada Day weekend. We went and did our thing, and then all this stuff is coming out. It's like about this, as I stutter more, this person called Joey Lombardi. Now, we had literally been on a Zoom call with this man a few times, talking about platforms and different ways to set up tactics. And honestly, it was very insightful. But then soon after, you find out all of this stuff about the entire coaching staff, and it really left a bad taste in all of our mouths, even some of us joking that we should have this license for free. But it goes to show that Canada has a long way to go in terms of getting things right and growing in this new world that we're in. We made a World Cup, and now we're probably expected to make every single other World Cup. Obviously, we'll make the next one because we're hosting it or co-hosting it. But then, the one after that, we're going to have to. And now, okay, can we get out of our group? And then probably in the next 10, 15, 20 years, can you win your group? I mean, as we pour more money into the sport. So I guess what I want to say is that we're still so far from a coaching point of view that there needs to be more done, more education, more funding, more sponsors when it comes to this sport so that we can get the adequate coaching. So we don't need to resort to things like drones. So we don't have to. We can, puff out our chests and be proud of being Canadians, honest, good citizens that try our hardest, and whatever way it goes, we'll accept and be there for each other. As a coach, then that's the people I met on my B license in coaching. There's some great people out there that have such good footy knowledge, and they're in their own clubs and they're doing amazing things. And I've seen the next crop of B licensed coaches that are also coming up. And I have friends in there and coworkers or former colleagues that I know are going to make an impact, not only here in Calgary, but wherever else they go, whether they choose to go abroad or if they choose, maybe a different part of the country. I know that us as a Canadian society, we're very young. We're babies when it comes to this sort of thing. We're still a very young country. I mean, not even 200 years old. Most countries that we play are maybe not in CONCACAF, but, certainly in Europe, they're much older, much more history. They've kind of figured it out a little bit earlier than us. So it's just it's something that Canada needs to buckle down. And I know that there is a vision, but I think Canada needs to do a better job of explaining to the public, not just the public, but like those that are involved in soccer, of where we want to be in X amount of years. I think there needs to be a much better, much more clear picture, so then we don't have our own coaching staff of the top level game resorting to these sorts of dirty tactics. I think it's interesting to note that John Herdman has now left TFC, and I think that's good. Regardless of how good of a coach or how poor of a coach you think he was, it's the right step for him to take. Now someone who's more honest and, has maybe earned it a bit more, or, won't make that same mistake, now will take his place. And I think it's getting rid of these sorts of not necessarily bad apples, but the people that are making poor choices, and get people in that are making better choices. The more better choices we make as a nation, the farther along we'll get, and the more players will develop. So basically, what I want to say to kind of finish up the video is this is the biggest scandal that Canada soccer has ever seen. The biggest scandal that I remember. Hockey Canada's got their own stuff and other sports, but this is very troublesome to see it all come out even recently, these last couple of days, in the details. And I think what we need to do is just hit the pause button, really take a look at our programs, men's and women's, and really just figure out where the hell we want to be. And hopefully that will bleed down into all the provincial and regional associations for us to then follow a pathway. And getting rid of people that do these types of things is great, and it's good to see. Necessary, yes, but there's other countries out there that will hang on to someone regardless of what they've done. So I'm proud to see us taking the rough, necessary steps to be able to accomplish these things, but also, be humble enough to say that, we made a mistake and we're going to look for other people. I say it again, and I'm probably going to do a whole video about it, but Jesse Marsh is literally perfect. I will die on a hill and say that he's going to bring us to a knockout stage a knockout stage into a World Cup. Our performance in the summer was amazing, and I just think we keep going. I think a Gold Cup, I think we need to be in the final and win it next year. I think, or at least be right there. And then we can go into the next World Cup with some momentum. I think a win would be perfect. But let me know what you think about these coaches and the scandal involving them. Were you a part of them? No. What do you think? Do you think it sets us back as a nation? Do you think it's good? We're making good changes? Let me know your opinions. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, all the good things, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.